So why risk assessment? In 2016, the Office of the State Auditor received over 20 formal complaints of local government fraud or abuse. Since then, the time our office devotes to investigating and training on fraud has only increased. Even though no government is immune to fraud, no matter its size or complexity, our experience informs us that many abuses could have been easily prevented. In response, we've determined to more proactively address this issue. Based on literature review and our own experience, we've established best practices which can be implemented by all governments, from the smallest, consisting of volunteers, to the largest, which may have professional staff. These practices are found in our one-page Fraud Risk Assessment Questionnaire at the end of our Fraud Risk Assessment Implementation Guide. Take the questionnaire, see where you can improve, and use our implementation guide and local gov resources to lower your risk. With that, let's cover our guide's recommendations and why they matter. First up, a commitment to ethical behavior. You need a policy that defines inappropriate behavior with an annual written commitment to that policy. This reminds officials and employees that they are responsible for the public good and not their own personal interest. It also establishes a tone at the top to help all understand that no one is above following the policy. Second, written policies and procedures. Actions need to be predictable and controlled to improve efficiency, but also to ensure assets, especially cash, are protected. We've identified policies every entity should adopt and have provided templates for you to use as a starting point. These policies are conflict of interest, ethical behavior, travel, credit or purchasing cards, cash receipting and deposits, procurement, personal use of entity assets, and IT and computer security. Third, hiring and training qualified staff. Every technical field has a credential or certification associated with it. When it comes to operating a government, depending on the services provided, every entity should identify what skills, knowledge, and experience are needed to effectively provide each service. If it's a health department, you need people who understand healthcare, both medical professionals and healthcare administrators. Within finance, you need someone who understands finance, who has both the appropriate background and education. A qualified financial professional is a CPA, for example, but there are other certifications that would indicate a level of financial proficiency. We recommend every entity have a CPA or similarly certified person on their staff. And when we say staff, that doesn't necessarily denote full-time staff, but can mean a contractor who comes in a few hours per month, quarter, or year, depending on entity need. At a minimum, every government should have access, either full or part-time, to someone with a bachelor's degree in accounting. Those with financial responsibilities should receive a minimum of 40 hours of finance-focused training per year, and this doesn't include rafting or four-wheeling trips at fancy conferences. Fourth, a hotline. This is where people within and outside the government report improper behavior. It doesn't need to cost a cent and can merely be an email address or voicemail. The key is the entity adopts a policy that specifies the process these complaints go through, who it goes to, and alternatives to ensure individuals aren't reviewing tips on themselves, an objective evaluation and accountability for action on each complaint, and a report back to the Audit Committee or governing body on how each tip was resolved. Fifth, the internal audit function. Internal audit verifies if the government is complying with outside and inside requirements. An example of an outside requirement may be that a federal grant may be expended only for a specific purpose. Internal audit would verify the grant requirements are met, so the entity doesn't risk forfeiting the funds. It can also measure the entity's internal requirements set by the governing body, like the policies we've discussed. The internal audit function doesn't need to be a full-time employee, but it does need to be someone who objectively and independently evaluates those processes. It can be someone within the entity, as long as they're not auditing their own work, or someone outside, like an auditing professional, from a CPA firm or forensic auditing firm, for example. Or it could simply be someone in a similar position to the area being audited, from a peer organization. How could that work? Well, a fire district in one county could get together with a neighboring county fire district and exchange staff members for a few days each year to complete internal audits of each other's districts. Because of each staff member's specialized knowledge, they can effectively review the policies and processes adopted by their neighboring government. This costs nothing. The key is that someone should be regularly determining which areas have risks and developing an audit program to address the identified risks. This person should not be the independent auditor who audits the financial statements, but whoever it is needs to report to the governing body or audit committee. Now last, that audit committee we just mentioned. An audit committee is simply a subset of the governing body that's able to focus on assisting the governing body in its financial oversight. The committee ensures, where it's required, that an independent audit is performed by a competent CPA firm. It also ensures the internal audit function is functioning with proper resources, assessing risk areas, and submitting audit reports to the committee as they're completed. The committee should receive any reports from the hotline. Overall, the audit committee makes sure management is enforcing all internal and external requirements. For example, a water district audit committee would verify that all water quality and safety protocols are being trained on and implemented. Once you're ready to lower your entity's fraud risk, don't forget to access our helpful resources to quickly get started at auditor.utah.gov/resources.